work hard, right? Life is not that difficult if you're willing to work,
Sure.
if you're willing to do what others won't do. Be honest to yourself, be honest to your team. If, be willing to call yourself out, hold yourself accountable. And then when the opportunity presents itself, hold your team accountable.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today our guest is Eric Burket. Eric started in the elevator industry in 1997 with General Elevator, working in Hagerstown, Maryland. Eric quickly found his passion for the industry and has spent 25 years in various sales roles and locations, including Regional Vice President with TK in New York City. Today, Eric is the president of Elevate Elevator Consulting. Eric loves what he does and believes that hard work is the key to success. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a long time, and I'm happy that we were able to connect.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's I was trying to remember how many years, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago that we first started talking to each other, and so it's great to be able to record this, and it was awesome to meet you at the NAC conference recently.
Yeah, the elevator industry is funny. It's a big country, but it's a really small industry, and it's kind of cool how it works.
Yeah, a lot of relationships, the camaraderie, just the connections is pretty amazing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, awesome. So, Eric, I just wanted to start at the beginning, and I would love to hear how you got into the elevator industry from the beginning.
Sure. Well, so went to a small school in Maryland, college, and got out, started my own company, did that for a couple years, and then got out from doing that. And my college roommate's father was the president of the elevator local in Baltimore.
Cool.
And he said, hey, come. At the time he was working for General Elevator, which was a Dover supplier.
Okay.
So I put my hat in the ring, and I got picked up by Dover, and the rest is history. It's owning your own business. I was working a lot of hours, 6-7 days a week.
What industry were you in your own business? Just curious.
So I actually had a corporate recognition and awards company.
Okay.
So we grew it really, really fast, and it was a good company. But I got out, and I at first I thought I'd just do something to bide my time until I figured out the next entrepreneurial endeavor.
Right.
But I got in with the team there in Baltimore and hit my stride, and it was a lot of fun.
Let's talk a little bit about that. You say picked up. Do you mean you were actually a mechanic in the trade, or what were you doing?
No. So when I started, this was back in '97. I lived in Annapolis, Maryland, and I got the low man on the totem pole assignment out in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Wow.
So I had an 88-mile commute to work, to and from, 88 miles each way every day. But I did it, and I enjoyed it, and met a lot of great people there, and worked there for a couple years. Went from service sales to construction sales, and then kind of worked my way up. A few years later, I became branch manager in York, Pennsylvania. So
still the same company, General Elevator?
Yeah, at that point, ThyssenKrupp had bought Dover.
Okay.
So we went from being General Elevator to ThyssenKrupp. So, I guess at the time I was 30-year-old kid, and started in the York branch, and there was an office manager there. She's since passed, but her name was Susan Daniels. Right. And she was from Danville, Virginia. And I remember, I think the first time that I tried to be the boss, and she pulled me aside. She's like, boss man, She says, that may work where you came from, but it won't work here. And she was just the greatest. And her daughter, Jessica, who's also since passed, worked there. And she came up to me and she said, I'm going to cosmetology school. This is just a part-time gig for me. As soon as I get my cosmetology license, I'm out here. And I'm like, Jess, you're doing a great job doing collections for us. Here's what I ask. I will let you cut people's hair on Friday afternoons. As long as you work hard for me Monday through Thursday. Friday, you can cut as many heads of hair as you like. And Jessica went on to be one of the best collectors in the region. And then ultimately she ended up in construction sales up in Westchester, New York. So she had a long career, and I learned a lot from that mother and daughter duo, and thoroughly enjoyed my time there. And then I was fortunate enough, we had some very good results in that what was the smallest office in the region.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate, and I became regional vice president and moved up. My office moved up to New York City. I didn't move to New York City, but my office moved up to New York City, and I ran the Northeast region. So it was a great opportunity. You know, our team sold the elevators in the I keep calling it the new Freedom Tower, but
Right.
in One World Trade. So that was a very exciting project to be part of, and you know, thoroughly enjoyed my time at Thyssen, and then yeah, that's how I got my start. It was a great 15 years I spent with Thyssen.
That's cool. You said you quickly got your stride. Talk to me a little bit about what that looked like, and how did you kind of, when did it click that you're like, man, I like this. This is what I'm going to do.
So I had two really cool bosses at the time, Alan Rumfeld and Tom Waller, and they used to do these sales competitions. And I came from being self-employed. So, you know, when you're self-employed, if you don't hustle, you don't eat.
Sure.
So I had this sort of aggressive sort of go for it mentality. And I was very fortunate. I did very well in all the sales competitions, and made a name for myself. And I think for me, I'm really competitive. So that's kind of what set the hook, I think. Just look, I remember the first opportunity at General Elevator. When I first started, and again, I make it sound like it was a long time ago, but it wasn't really. But, you know, I had a secretary that typed up my proposals on a typewriter,
Wow.
you know? So, you know, Microsoft Office had just come out, and they had offered a prize if anybody could do a PowerPoint on a Dover product. So I was like, game on. I put my first PowerPoint together, didn't even know how to use PowerPoint, but figured it out, made a whole Monty Python inspired presentation with the big hand coming in, pushing the elevator button, and I won a polo shirt. But to me, it didn't matter.
Right.
I just wanted to win. And I think the hook was set at that point. And it was just, it didn't really matter what the prize was. It was just, and again, it might be one of my shortcomings. I'm a little bit competitive, but it was just fun. I had a great time, enjoyed myself, and was very, very fortunate that I had some really good people that I worked with.
Sure.
You know, success is one of those funny things. It's not one person. I've been very fortunate in my entire, 24, 25 years in the industry that I've had the chance to work with some really great people, and just probably more luck being paired up with the right people that led to such a good career.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like you got in, you quickly said, wow, if I work hard, if I, compete with what I've got, I'm going to have opportunities to grow, to be recognized, to make some great money. And
so it was, again, my business was a real job, right? But
Mhm.
this was the first time that people were paying me, and it didn't matter whether I showed up or not, I got paid. And so I remember, and look, my company did well, but just the whole concept of having vacation time where I really, when you own your own business, there is no such thing as
True.
vacation. You're
Right.
on the hook all the time,
Yep.
right? So I, I remember taking my first vacation and I just couldn't believe that I was getting paid, and not, having to answer the phone. So it, again, I had some really good people. Steve Rigatuso was, Steve and I worked together in Hagerstown. He's still in Baltimore, has held many, many different levels of management within the Thyssen structure. But he's still there. And we both, started out in Hagerstown. And I just, at every step of the way, just had great people around me and great people to work with, and just thoroughly enjoyed myself. So it's really hard. I've been very fortunate and have loved every minute that I've been in the elevator industry.
That's awesome. And you've given, obviously some of your mentors. Who are some of the other big mentors that really helped kind of define you and your career and really put a stamp on it?
So I think there are three main mentors in my life, right? My dad, um, I had a lacrosse coach that's since passed, named Greg Murphy. And then my last boss, Ray Falduti. My dad worked for the government. I was actually born in England. And then he got a change of station. We came back to the States. He was gone a lot. One of those jobs where I wasn't, didn't know what he did. But whenever he was home, he was always at my sporting events. I played lacrosse pretty much year round. He was always there, and just really instilled a solid work ethic.
Right.
Coach Murphy was just a hardcore, um, former special forces, Army guy from Vietnam. After he retired, he was the president of the hospital in Annapolis. Just a hardcore dude that expected excellence. And I remember just that quintessential moment at halftime in a lacrosse game. He'd had enough, and I was the shortest on the team, so I was always standing in the front. And he grabbed my helmet, and he was just shaking it and yelling, and he had such passion. And I know he's yelling at everybody, but I don't know what happened. He threw a switch, and it took my competitiveness to just another level, and really just woke a fire within me.
Right.
And then my last boss, Ray Falduti, was with Schindler Elevators whole entire career. Just an industry giant, and just had this just easy way about him. He had experience. He was unflappable, and Ray just let me be me. I remember when I first started in Charlotte, Ray took me and we went to an architect's office and we were working through some issues. I was with the company a week,
Right.
and the architect had presented a problem, and I was the new guy, sat back, kept my mouth shut. And when we got done, they looked at me and said, "Do you have any ideas?" And I kind of grabbed a piece of paper and sketched something out, and it ended up being the solution they were looking for. And the architect said, "Hey, I need you to sign this non-disclosure agreement. I want you to take a look at these drawings." So we looked at this uh, mid-sized tower that's now in Charlotte.
Right.
And he's like, "I want you to be part of this project." And I was all excited. I was giddy. Ray and I went back to the office, and Ray's like, "Eric, that's not work that we're normally competitive in, and it's not work that we normally do." And I want to say that I threw a total fit. uh, Probably it was worse in my mind than it was, but I told Ray, "You hired the wrong guy. If we're not going to go after this kind of work, you hired the wrong guy." He's like, all right, go after it. but if we don't get it, I don't want to hear your belly aching.
Right.
And I was like, if we go after it, we're going to get it. And we got it. And it was a really exciting project. It's the Bank of America Tower that's in Charlotte, right next to the football stadium.
Mhm.
And it had some new technology in it that had not been used before in the country. So it was just an awesome opportunity to be part of something really special, to the city of Charlotte. And that project led to many more exciting projects in Charlotte. And Ray was cool the whole way through. He just let me be me. When I got in trouble, Ray always had my back. I can be a little bit of a hard charger, and Ray was always very cool. He's like, Eric, I pay you for your results, not for your methods. And we did some very exciting things, and just like my time at Thyssen, I'm very, very proud for what we accomplished at Schindler, and very grateful for the time that I was there.
Very cool. Very cool. So it sounds like maybe you did get in trouble a few times, just from what you were saying. But
yeah, so yeah, I don't have a filter, and sometimes, look, Coach Murphy kind of instilled that, and again, I don't know if it was his military background, but he had high expectations, right? And you had to perform. And there was no excuse for not performing. And there was no excuse for those around you not performing to the top of their ability. So you don't get to be the best lacrosse team if everybody's not performing. And Coach Murphy had his oldest son, Brennan, went to the United States Naval Academy and had a great career in the Navy. Ryan was an All-American lacrosse player, we went to Salisbury. At the time, it was Salisbury State. It's now Salisbury University, 12-time national champions in lacrosse. But Ryan helped lead Salisbury to national championship in lacrosse. So Coach Murphy had high expectations, and I kind of adopted that, right? So I tried to hold people accountable, but I tried to lead from the front, and sometimes being honest rubs people the wrong way, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that's no, thanks for being honest. I mean, it's cool to just hear you, just be authentic about, yep, this is me, and it sounds like you were able to accomplish some great things.
So my career at Thyssen was cut short because I went through a divorce, right? As a young man, the cultural norm is that you work hard. And I thought the harder I work, I'll climb up the corporate ladder, and maybe I lost focus, right?
Sure.
And the divorce was sort of my first taste of losing, right? And it really scrambled my eggs.
Oh, sure.
And but it taught me some great lessons, right? And coming out of the divorce, I became a single dad raising 4 kids. At the time, my youngest had just turned 2.
Wow.
So I had to come from full-time corporate guy to full-time single dad with a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, or 6-year-old, and a 15-year-old. So it was a great opportunity to mature a little bit. I had been running pretty wide open, and I think on the backside of that, there's a lot that I learned, and I think it helped me to be a better human being. And I still upset people from time to time with being a hard charging person, but I think I'm a lot more even keel now than I was when I was just a young pup coming up.
Yeah. So did you spent some time out of the industry at that time then?
So yeah, I spent a year or 2 in between, just trying to get my feet under me, right? It was a lot of things in life that happen that you're maybe not prepared for. There's not really a manual for how to get through it.
No.
And I had moved, 3 or 4 times, done the corporate move thing. So I didn't have any family close. So, look, I couldn't meet the travel requirements. I don't think mentally going through that I was fully there. So when Tisson's like, hey, you're not capable. I was going to Germany quite a bit, and I wasn't capable of doing the job at that level.
Sure.
They let me go, and I, in hindsight, fully understand why. Um, I get it. And it was a very challenging time. But again, sometimes um, iron sharpens iron, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely. Sure.
it was good in retrospect. You could have never convinced me at the time, but it was good to go through that. And I think that my kids learned a lot. Again, they were young, but witnessing just putting one foot in front of the other and pushing forward. And, it took me a few years. But I made it back. I got this opportunity to come down to Charlotte, and we love the Southeast, and I don't know. It took maybe a year to get up into the elite status at Schindler, and every time that I got recognized as being an elite performer, I brought my kids to
That's cool.
the event because I wanted them to see that this is the benefit of hard work, right? This is the good that comes with, if you're willing to put in the time and practice, if you're willing to work hard at game time, these are the accolades and the cool things that come with it. So we've gotten to do some really cool things. And like I said, I've been blessed beyond measure in this industry.
That's awesome. And it almost sounds like, yeah, kind of chapter one, then a break, and then chapter two. And it sounds like you came back having learned some hard lessons, but certainly more mature, more seasoned, more ready to take on new challenges.
I like to think. I like to think one of the coolest things is that I still have former work peers, employees that work for me that to this day, 25 years on, still from time to time will call me if they have a question, if they have a situation that they're in, they need help. And I think that's kind of a cool testament to the relationships that I built.
Sure.
So the present here and now, I left Schindler,
Right.
and I all while I was selling new equipment, got out of management, selling new equipment. I had people calling, customers calling, architects calling with questions, and I loved helping. And after I left Schindler, the phone calls never stopped.
Wow.
So I just kind of said, hey, if I kind of hang a shingle out there and become a consultant, would you keep calling me? And the answer has been yes. And it's been very, very encouraging. And it's a scary thing at 50 to go out and start your own thing without
Sure.
any safety net. But it's been an awesome opportunity so far. And I'm just thrilled with the client base we're building.
That's awesome. You said no safety net, but it strikes me talking to you and talking to a lot of others in the industry that the safety net really is what you know and who you know. It's a
Sure.
combination that you can apply that so many different ways.
So I would agree, right? It's elevators kind of funny thing. There's a lot of people that try to get away when you have some of those hard resets in life. People are like, I'm taking a time out. I'm going to go do something else. And you can almost put a clock on it. It's 6 months. They're like, I'm coming back. And, you learn. It's such a niche industry. And having been, predominantly on the construction side of the business,
Right.
I heard a saying once when I was just a pup coming up in the industry. There are those that build the house, and then there are those who maintain the yard. And I'm like, I always hated mowing the yard. So I'm going to be one of the guys that builds a house. So I just kind of set my path and stayed on the construction side, and just have learned a lot over the years, and now it's paying off.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that you've got architects and others calling you for your expertise says so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it's great. Built some great relationships over the years, and again, it's really such a small industry, right? And
Mhm.
Just have had, great opportunity. My old boss, Ray, he's now retired, but we still get out. And if I have questions, I can lean on his experience, and he's just been a phenomenal sort of, person to go to and help when I have sort of business questions. So it's been good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say you love the most about the industry?
So I love construction, right? I love the beginning and the end, going from the conceptual, here's what we think this building's going to look like, and especially the some of the towers that I've been involved in. It's really interesting to see over the course, because you can be working on design 3 years before the project
Sure.
even starts moving dirt, and see how this seedling, if you will, you water it with knowledge and hard work, and you see how it takes root and it grows, and then to just get the job completed, have the topping off ceremony to get to the final inspection. And again, I'm one of those, and I'm sure a lot of elevator people are like this, but every time I drive by the skyline of Charlotte, I'm pointing to my kids. If that's my building, that's my building. And they're like, yeah, we know, Dad, we know. But I'm super proud of it. And I love, just like I love my children, I love those buildings. It's just something that I put a lot of work into, and I'm super proud of what we accomplished.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I can see that, just driving through and hey, I know that elevator and I help create it, help, design it, whatever role you
Yeah.
played. What are some of the biggest issues that you see facing the elevator industry today?
Well, I think there's two. I wasn't going to talk about one of them, but the first being supply chain issues, right?
Sure.
Everything's gone to printed circuit boards, and technology's getting, sort of more condensed, and there's a lot of issue getting printed circuit boards, drives, certain components, and Um, we've seen lead times go from being able to get an elevator in 4 weeks to sometimes now it takes 6 months or more to get
Ouch. Yeah.
elevators. So it really creates a strong need for good project management, both from the elevator manufacturer and from the general contractors in the field. It's a more nuanced dance, if you will. And then I think the other issue, um, you know, the elevator companies, the bigs, right? The main
Sure.
big OEMs, um, the costs continue to go up. So in order to make profit, it seems that maybe the service model gets a little bit more diluted every year. So it seems that costs just keep going up and up and
Right.
up, and there seems to be a little bit more distance between the bigs and the customers. Which, if you look at the industry, there's been such a wild proliferation of the small elevator companies,
Right.
right? People, good elevator people leaving the bigs and then going and starting their own companies. And what's interesting there is that we saw this giant proliferation, and now you're starting to see the AEGs, the three phases,
Sure.
now consolidating all of the littles. So it's just a really interesting time in the elevator industry. But I think there's a lot of exciting things going on. We saw some of that at the NAEC show up in Louisville. The technology, what's going on in the industry right now. There's some really, really cool products and manufacturers. So it's an exciting time, but I think supply chain is probably the biggest issue right
Gotcha. Yeah. 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 What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned in your career?
now. I should probably take one step back before I answer that. I should probably say that my grandfather was also a big influence,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a very, very successful businessman, owned a bunch of restaurants, an advertising company. And when I went to college, I started out to pursue a business degree. And I remember I failed my first test. And I called my grandfather and I'm like, Pap, how did I fail this test? And we went over it question by question. He said, Eric, there's two answers to every question. There's a way it works in the real world, and there's a way that the book says it should work. And he says, sometimes you have to answer it the way the book says it would work, even if you know that there's a better way in the real world. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. And he goes, Eric, my suggestion, if you know people, you don't have to worry about it. Business will take care of itself if you know people. So I walked right into the registrar's office and I dropped my business classes and got a degree in psychology. So cool. I've always, and again, I know that there's people over my career that I've rubbed the wrong way, but I think I've got an even larger list of people that I would go to the ends of the earth to protect and do things for. And I've got a very, very loyal group of friends that I've, met. So I think that's my most important takeaway from my career, is that I've made some really, really good relationships. When I was at Schindler, we were top office in the customer experience. We really, really, my project manager, Ann Gable, and I really made it a priority to take care of our customers.
Sure. And
I think that that's sort of the biggest takeaway, that if you take care of people, the business will take care of itself.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, and I admit this may be a little bit redundant. What's one thing you would want to share with listeners, with maybe people who are starting out? Maybe it's the same thing, but I thought I'd ask it that way.
Well, so if I were going to give advice, okay, so great example. So I had a young guy named Tyler Cathera who came out of Texas Tech, and I had been doing fairly well. And Schindler's like, hey, we want you to hire this kid out of college. And man, I was hard. I said, I took a page out of Coach Murphy's playbook, and I'm like, if you're going to come out of my program, you're going to work hard, and you're going to do everything I tell you. And I'll tell you what I told him: work hard, right? Life is not that difficult if you're willing to work. Sure. If you're willing to do what others won't do. Be honest to yourself, be honest to your team. Be willing to call yourself out, hold yourself accountable, and then when the opportunity presents itself, hold your team accountable. Very excited to say that people kept telling me, take it easy. And I was fair, but I was hard on Tyler, and he has responded. He's done very, very well. He's now in the Nashville market and making a great name for himself. So that would be my advice. If you're young, getting into the industry, just work hard. Take that 6-inch step further than the next person. Work hard, be honest, take care of your customers, and everything else will take care of itself.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate your time. We're pretty much out of time now, but thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, Matt, I appreciate it. It was good seeing you in Louisville, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.